This video is part of a live team meeting with Mike Merchant, chairman of the board at Anasazi Foundation, where he teaches about mindset tools and boxes that we carry.
So really excited to be back with all of you. And I'm going to do a quick review of everything we've learned this last year. And then we'll share with you one more tool that I think can be helpful to all of us. So let me share my slide deck real quickly here. And it'll take just a second to set this up. So what we've been doing is, and as Jose has shared with you, Anatomy of Peace and some of the other publications by the Arbinger Institute, we've been introducing you to some of our mindset change tools, or excuse me, our self-awareness tools and mindset change tools. So I just want to do kind of a quick review of what we've learned so far, where we've been on this journey in 2020 time together. And so we've actually shared with you 3 self-awareness tools and 2 mindset change tools so far this year. We've introduced you to this idea of 2 mindsets, an outward mindset and an inward mindset. And we talked about being together in a together kind of way versus being together in a separate kind of a way. Then we introduced you to self-betrayal and the red flags. And as Jose mentioned, these are recorded, so you're welcome to go back and watch them if you'd like to. And then we introduced you to collusion, when 2 people are in the box towards each other. By the way, those of you who are new, we use this metaphor of the box to describe ourselves when we're only thinking about ourselves and not our work, not our mission, not anyone else, but just our own selves, thinking about our own results and our own work. Then we've introduced you to 2 mindset change tools this year. The influence pyramid, we spent some time on that one, which is a tool we'd want to deploy when we want to improve our influence in a situation that's not going well, either at home or work. And then we introduce you to the outward mindset pattern. This is see others, adjust efforts, measure impact. It's a tool that we can use when we want to get intentional about being outward in any way. We plan a family vacation in outward mindset way. We want to have a conversation with the customer in an outward mindset way. We'd want to follow that pattern. So those are the tools we've introduced you to so far. And there's one more self-awareness tool we've not discussed this year. And I want to take today to do that. And that way you have a full suite of our self-awareness tools, 2 mindset change tools, and that you guys can deploy going forward. And then we'll talk more next year about how do we actually embed these into the fabric of our work. Okay, so today we're going to talk about boxes we carry with us. And so when we betray ourselves and we get in the box and justify ourselves over and over again, pretty soon we start to believe that justification about ourselves, and we begin to carry boxes around with us. And let me explain what I mean by that here for just a minute. If you remember our self-betrayal diagram and discussion that we had about how look, we're all human, and we have a sense that others are human. We have a sense of how we'd want to be treated if we were in their circumstances. Honor that sense, life flows. Betray that sense, we create a new need in our life. We now have to justify why we're not treating somebody else as someone who counts and matters like we matter, and justify ourselves over and over and over again. We start to believe it. We actually start to believe the justification about ourselves. When our mindset's outward, people count like we count. They actually matter like we matter. But when we betray ourselves and justify ourselves over and over again, we're going to start to see ourselves as above other people or beneath them. But when we see ourselves as above them, we're going to adopt an inward style that we call better than, a box we carry around with us, where we start to see ourselves as better than other people, smarter than, better than them. Stay there very long, and we'll adopt an inward style, a box we carry around with us called I deserve. I deserve. See ourselves as worse than others, and we'll adopt this inward style of I'm worse than, I'm beneath you. I wish I was as smart as you. Stay there very long, we'll try and make up for it, and we'll adopt this inward style of need to be seen as. And so now need to be seen as, this is actually where perfectionism comes in. It's where indulgence comes in, because inside I feel worse than, and so I'm trying to make up for it by doing things for everyone else, or by letting people get away with things they shouldn't, or trying to portray something that I'm actually not. So let's unpack these. And as I unpack these here for just a minute, these are just all different styles inside one box. And so as I unpack them for just a minute, I want you to ask yourself as you're looking through these, if you might identify more with one than another on these. And so When we're in this better than box and we drag this box around with us, what's our self-view? We're superior, we're important, and we're virtuous. And how do we feel? Well, impatient and indifferent and disdainful of other people. When we're in this I deserve, our self-view is we're meritorious, mistreated, unappreciated. And how do we feel? Well, entitled and deprived and resentful. And when we're dragging around this worse than inward style, what's our self-view? Well, we're deficient, we're broken, we're powerless. And how do we feel? Well, depressed and envious and resigned. I just can't do this anymore, right? When we're in this need to be seen as, trying to make up for feeling worse than, portraying something that we're not, our self-view is that we're being watched, we're at risk, we're being judged. And how do we feel? Well, anxious, stressed, and overwhelmed. So let me give you a couple examples from my own life, just a couple simple examples. Then what we're gonna do is I'm gonna share with you a couple of other examples and have you ask yourself, which one of these might you find yourself in given that circumstance? So I grew up in a family where money was always an issue. My dad was a school teacher and we lived on a farm and we were always broke. I heard the word broke a million times growing up. And I'll never forget my, leaving to go to college when I was 18 years old, telling myself I was never going to be like my mom and dad. And I wasn't going to be like them. So my undergraduate degrees in finance, and I was not going to be like them. And so my dad sent me a check my freshman year in college for $250, which was a lot of money back then. But I actually wasn't going to cash it. I carried it around in my wallet for 2 years. So I was so afraid the bank would have never taken it because it wasn't going to be like them. And so how do you think I saw myself as it relates to my parents? How do you think I saw myself as it relates to them, you guys? Any thoughts? Any thoughts, you guys? Yeah, better than. I saw myself as better than them, right? I was above them. I was better than, right? So here's another story. Terry Warner, the founder of Arbinger, recruited me back in 1990 to get involved with Anasazi. I was this young buck, 4 years out of college. And I really wanted him to like me. So he was smart, he was thoughtful, he was this good businessman, and I wanted him to like me. And so I was always trying to put on this good face, even in the midst of challenges. I was worried that someone would give him feedback that would show that I wasn't capable. I was super needy for feedback from him. And so which one of these do you think I'm dragging around with me? Yes, very good, Megan. Need to be seen as. Alicia, very good. Need to be seen as. So exactly right. Okay. So here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give some examples, and I want you to type in the chat window which one of these would you find yourself in if this were to happen. Okay. So I'm just going to share a situation, and then I just want you to type in the chat window which one of these would you find yourself in if you were in a box. Okay, if you were in a box. We're not always in a box, but if we were in a box, which one of these would you find yourself in? Okay, so here's the situation. Your partner questions your point of view. Okay, so your partner questions your point of view. If you were in a box, which inward style would you be in? Okay, we got a couple of better ones, Jesse. And okay, a couple of I deserves right there, better than. Okay, better than, I deserve. Need to be seen as. Megan says need to be seen as. Great. All right, you guys, so for a couple of you that have listed better than, what are you thinking? What's going through your brain? I just love to hear from a couple of you. When you're in that better than place and your partner questions your point of view, what are you thinking about them? What's in your brain?
That I am right and he's wrong.
I'm right, he's wrong, right? Look, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. And that I know better, that I'm smarter than you, and whatever comment, if you question my point of view, that's just stupid, right? And so, okay, very, very good. Those of you who are in the I deserve, if you're in that I deserve, what are you thinking? What's in your brain when you're in that I deserve place?
Like I deserve for him to seem like agree with him. Like he
Yeah,
needs to, I mean, agree with me.
yeah, I deserve
right.
that. Yeah, after everything I've given you, right? After everything I do, all this, I deserve to be treated a little differently here, right? So yes, that's exactly right. And then I didn't see anybody up there in that worse than place. But if you're in the worse than place, here's what you're thinking. You're thinking, oh my gosh, there's something wrong with me, right? I wish I was as smart as he is. That's where you go with it. If you're in the need to be seen as, or a couple of you are the need to be seen as, if you're in the need to be seen as, what are you thinking?
Yeah, my husband is a former law enforcement officer, so when he does that, I always feel like he's judging me or doesn't believe me.
Yes, so I feel I'm being judged, right? And there's a conspiracy theory against me, or whatever it is, right? So exactly right. Okay, good. Here's another situation. I want you thinking about this one for a minute, okay? This one's kind of fun. You walk into your house at the end of a long day. I want you to think about it for a minute. If you were in a box, which one of these would you go to? You walk into your house at the end of a long day. Okay, I deserve, Sylvia, I deserve, a whole bunch of I deserves in there. Sarah, okay, a couple of better thans. All right, so wow, it's just fun. Worse than Christopher. Okay, I'm gonna come back to that one in a minute. So Christopher, need to be seen as, good. Need to be seen as, depends on if it's a good day or bad day. Very good, okay. All right, I love that. So Amanda, okay, so here's the thing. Okay, so if you're in the better than place and you're walking into the house, yeah, what are you thinking? What are you thinking?
That my day was harder than theirs.
Yeah, my day was harder. I, did this and conquered the world, and much more
Yeah.
important than anything that's going on here, right? And so, how should I treat the queen? If you're in the I deserve, all of you that are in the I deserve, a couple of you, what are you thinking? What do you think about I deserve?
For example, for me, this is my first experience with a job, and I live with my parents. And when this week, I felt like I have some things to do here in the house, like wash the dishes or clean, I don't know. And so when I finished these days, I felt like I deserve, like, maybe my mom should do that, because I was working, so I deserve a little of, I don't know, rest or something. So.
Yeah, I'm like, who made that mess over there? And why, where's the dinner? And why didn't someone clean that up? And you're exactly right. Very good. Now, there was a worse than, I can't remember who I went through there, but if you're in that worse than place, when you walk into the house at the end of the day, what are you thinking?
I am feeling defeated, broken, helpless.
Yeah.
Shouldn't feel that way, but
Yeah, when you're in that box, you're like, oh my gosh, I just can't do it all. Can't do it all. Can't do home,
Yep.
can't do it all. It's just so much, right?
Mhm.
When you're in the need to be seen as, you're feeling worse and you're trying to make up for it. So when you're in the need to be seen as, you walk in and you're going to take it all on, home and work, all of it, right? You're going to take it all on. Now, what's fun about this one, when we're in a box, what do we need? Well, we need justification. And so when one of these is not working for us, we might move to the other. For example, in this one, I can move through all four of these in about 45 seconds when I walk into the house at the end of the day. I'll walk in feeling a little better than, conquered the world. And when nobody notices my better than, I start to pick up a bit of an attitude, right? Feeling unappreciated. And when Galen calls me out on my attitude, I quickly go to that worse than place. I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I wish I was more. And before I know it, I'm in the kitchen, I'm doing the dishes so she can see how helpful I am, right? I'll just move through all of them. But the idea is I go through these, I'm hoping you're starting to find one or two of these that's dominant. Okay, here's the next one for you. They're introducing a brand new process at work, and I have no clue how it works. They're introducing a brand new process at work, and I have no clue how it works. Go ahead and type in if you were in a box, which one of these inward styles would you be in? Okay, worse than. Need to be seen as. A lot of worse than. Okay. Need to be seen as. All right. It's probably where I would go to. All right. Well,
I missed the setting, Mike. Could you say it again?
They're introducing a brand new process at work, and I have no clue how it works. So now Samantha put up there, she has also better than. And so Samantha, I'd love to hear from you. What are you thinking also?
So first I put the need to be seen because I was thinking about the I may feel, because I would feel anxious and stressed and overwhelmed and unsure, but I would also feel better then only because I would be impatient to want to master the new
Okay,
system.
good. And so sometimes we might go from that one to the other one. So again, as we move through them. Now, what's interesting is a true better than doesn't really care what people think about them. Now, need to be seen as really cares about what people think about them in a big way, right? So now, if you're in the better than place, which I don't think Samantha was the only one that put, but in that better than place, yes, you're impatient with it. You're kind of thinking to yourself, oh my gosh, a stupid thing. Who introduced this idea, right? A new process. The old one works great, right? And if you're in the I deserve, you're thinking, why didn't anybody include me in this? And why didn't somebody come and show me how this works? But if you're in the worse than, many of you are in that worse than place. What are you thinking in the worse than place?
That it's hard and can't do it, and it's new, and I hate changes, and
that's just one more thing I can't do, right? It's like, oh my gosh, I can't. And so we try and make up for it. So if you're in the need to be seen as, how do we show up? How do we show up in that need to be seen as place? What do we say? What do we do in the need to be seen as? If we're feeling worse and we're trying to make up for it, we're all going to be, okay, we got this, even though we have no clue how it works, right? Got this. And we're going to go fake it till we make it, right? We're going to get it. But we're not going to tell anybody that we don't know how this works, exactly, because we're worried about how other people see us. Okay, last one. And so most of you are not old enough here but you'll just have to use your imagination here for just a minute. And so the last one, my child gets arrested. Okay, my child gets arrested. If I was in a box, which one of these would I go to? Which inward style would I drag around with me? Okay, worse than? All of them, Jasmine says. I'd go through all of them.
She's been there with some of her siblings. I have a question for you. Can you be in more than one at a time? I think because I have been in the worst then in that situation at the same time that I've been in the better then and at the certain, and even as I need to be seen, I guess it depends on who I interact with at the time.
That's right. That's what I was going to say. It really depends on who I'm interacting. For example, I might see myself with my neighbors. I might be super conscious about how they see me. With my child getting arrested, right? I'm in that need to be seen as. We're going to be the first one on the police station. We're going to take care of this. We're going to, right? All of that. Whereas with my at home or with other family members, I'm going to be in that worse than place. I was a better dad. If I was home more often, I'd really go to that worse than place. If I'm talking to a friend at work or somebody, I might be in that I deserve, right? After everything I've done for this kid, he did this to us, and in that I deserve place. And or if I'm in, or better than, this kid's just stupid, making stupid choices. So you're exactly right, Jose. It might depend upon the people that we're with. And so here's the idea. My hope is we start to identify maybe one with one than another. For example, for me, here's what I've learned, and this is how it solves this self-awareness for all of us. This is where I probably spend more time. At home, I'm spending more time in kind of that better than place. At work, it's probably need to be seen as. When I'm in a box, I'm not always in a box, but when I'm there, those are probably the ones that I spend more time in. Now, I had a coach at Arbinger for a year. Her name was Nancy Smith, and she would jump on a call with me once a month, and she would navigate through my life and find a box. And then she would ask this question. And at first I hated this question, but the more she asked it, the more helpful it was. And you might write this question down. She would ask me, she would say, when she'd find the box, she'd say, Mike, what image about you is now being shattered or threatened? What image about you is now being shattered or threatened? And what I discovered by trying to answer that question was that anytime I was getting triggered, anytime there was kind of an eruption for me in some way, there was a corresponding view of myself that was now being shattered or threatened. Better than, I deserve, worse than, need to be seen as, right? someone would come along and say, Mike, you turned out just like your dad. And it was meant to be a compliment. I said, no, I didn't, right? Just quickly. Right? And so, yep, by the way, my dad's a great, great guy. And so, but I would say, no, I didn't. I'd get defensive. And where'd that come from? There was no clear thought or feeling that I betrayed. Just boom, the red flags were there. I got triggered in some way. Why? Because there was a corresponding view of myself needing to be seen as better than my mom and dad that was now being shattered or threatened. Or we'd have problems with money at home and there'd be an eruption. And I would erupt because Galen spent too much. And she had no idea where that came from. But look, I had an image about me. I needed to be seen as better than my mom and dad. And it was in answering that question that I made the connection between this box I was dragging around with me and my fanaticism about our budget and our finances at home. And it wasn't until I got out of the box towards my parents that I was able to actually be better. And the reason, hopefully the reason I'm still married, right? And so otherwise I had this image that kept getting shattered or threatened. So I love that question. I love that question. What image about me is now being shattered or threatened? And so that's how we know we're dragging one of these around with us. We get triggered, there's an eruption for us, all the red flags are there for us, no clear thought or feeling that we betrayed, just boom, someone walks in the door, someone makes us late. That was I would, there would be an eruption for every time someone made me late. Well, why? Because I had this corresponding view of myself, need to be seen as on time or courteous of other people. There's nothing wrong with being on time and courteous to other people. It's only wrong when I have to have other people see it. It was in answering that question that I actually, I began to discover in my life that it was the people that I struggled with most of my life that actually could be my greatest gifts if I allowed them to be. Because they were the ones that were calling out the parts of me that were not authentic, not straightforward. In fact, one of our therapists, Anasazi, says, I cannot see me and be me. In other words, I cannot be so worried about a self-justifying image, arranging myself in people's mind to have them see me as better than or deserving or worse than or need to be seen as, and actually just be the person that I can be, right? Be the person I can be. So we're gonna watch a little video. This is Lavana. I'm gonna optimize this. This is Lavana. Lavana actually, she did this little activity. By the way, when we do this in person, we put posters on the wall and people will go to the different corners. She's gonna share a little experience of hers. She discovered as she was doing this little activity that she was spending more time in the I deserve. And her kids invite her to a family activity. She doesn't go. And one of her kids says something and she suddenly discovers where she's at.
But I remember doing the class, and what really stuck with me, and it almost brought me to tears. We were asked to get in different corners. The corner I got in was deserving. I deserve. I've raised my kids, they went off to college, they have their own place. Now I deserve me. I deserve me time and all about me. I don't have to do a lot of Easter egg hunts anymore. I don't have to do the family functions because I've done all of that, and I deserve my time on the weekends, and I do what I want to do. In doing that for a year, I deserve that, and I believe that, and no one could tell me any different until I listened in that class and how that affected my family. And I don't like to talk about it because it is emotional for me. It is, because I was really in that box. We had a family function, and all the family got together and went out to dinner. And I said, it's Saturday, I got this to do and I got that to do. And of course my kids, they love Granny and Grandpa, so everybody was there. And my daughter said she kept on looking at the door. She felt like she was in kindergarten looking for her mom to come. And I didn't show up. And that was really, really hard. Kind of got me back, you don't deserve as much as you think you do. Because you're affecting other lives, and other people. So it's difficult.
So I love her comment there. It affects other lives and other people. So I'd love to have it just ponder a couple of questions together to go through this. But by the way, before we ponder a couple of these questions, there was a couple of comments in the chat window that I really appreciate. One of them is, look, is there a furious box? So now furious is an emotion, right? And so, and I can actually be furious in each one of these. So it's a different kind of a furious though. A furious in that better than is it's a furious with other, I'm disdainful at other people. I'm furious, and the I deserve is it's a furious that nobody sees me or appreciates all that I've contributed. And the worst, then I'm furious with me, with me, and I just can't do it. When need to be seen as, I want people to see how furious I am, how someone's mistreated me, or how I'm being judged, right? And so it's that's an emotion that I can experience in any of these. And so, but Jose's comment was helpful to us earlier that says, look, thinking about the people I'm with, thinking about work, thinking about home, what might be my most common style? What might be the one I drag around the most with me? Like I said, for Mike, it's better than at home. It's need to be seen as at work. But think about that for a minute. What's it like to go to family reunion when Mike sees himself as better than everyone else? What's that like? Probably no fun, right? Or what's it like to work with Mike when he needs to be seen as this likable, kind, and nice leader? Can't make the tough decisions, can't say no, indulges other people in bad behavior, right? And so it's not great. And so what I'd love to have you do is on a piece of paper somewhere, just write down a note, think about, look, of all these styles, and I'm going to go ahead and put them back up again. Of these styles, which might be your most common at home and work? Just maybe make a note there. Which might be your most common one at home or work? When you're in a box, we're not always there, but when we're there. And then ask yourself, look, what's it like to live and work with you when you're dragging that box around with you, right? What's it like to live and work with you? So I'd love to hear what a couple of you are discovering. As you're thinking about that for a minute, like what might be your most common one when you're in a box, and what's it like, do you think, for people to live and work with you when you're dragging that inward style around?
I think often I'm in the I deserve box, especially when I'm learning something, and I think I can just be life sucking to whoever is teaching me because I am demanding so much of them, so much more than necessary.
Yeah.
So.
And look, when I'm out of the box, it doesn't feel like that, right? I'm just learning, and I want to learn, and I still want to learn. It's not that. It's just I loved your comment, life sucking to the person there. When I'm in that, I deserve to have people tell me how this works. I deserve to have people show me how this happens. And I feel anxious around that. So very good, very good. Anyone else?
I'm often in the need to be seen box. And it's more so because I get overwhelmed easily from being anxious and stressed. And I'm very short with people when I'm like that. More so my family, because you can get away with more with the people that love you, obviously. But I think with work, I tend to literally go in my own little box and world. Like I focus on what I have to get done. So, because I feel like if I can't get my stuff done, I can't help other people out. So that just doesn't sit well with me.
No, and as I'm listening to you, I know that one, need to be seen as busy, important, need to be seen as, so I'm going at when I'm leaving my desk to go to the restroom, I'm going at a brisk pace so everybody in the house can see all of this on my plate right now today, right? Let's race back into my Zoom call. So no, I know that one. Very, very good. Okay, good. Anybody else discover anything?
Mike, I think that in our home environment, sometimes we feel better than, because I think of my kids or my husband and I'm like, oh, they go to school and they work, but I work, I clean, I cook. And, so sometimes we feel that we're better because we do so many things. But I remember once one of my kids said, when we're with our dad, we feel so relaxed. It's so fun. But when it's just mom at home, we feel stressed because I demand a lot. And so that was an eye opener for me that I was like, oh, I need to step down and, not make them feel that I can do everything and they can't. Yeah.
Why don't I just see people as people? Why do I need to see myself as above them or beneath them, right? Well, because it's, again, these boxes, we adopt these because we've betrayed our sense towards others and justified ourselves over and over again. We start to actually believe it about ourselves. And so we drag this around and it's getting shattered or threatened continually, and so there's these eruptions in our lives, or we're getting triggered in some way, and we're like, hey, where did that come from, right? Well, it's because we have an image about ourselves being shattered or threatened. Great. Anyone else have any thoughts, comments?
I do feel sometimes like I'm in a couple of boxes with my family and all the things that we have, all the stress that we have. But I also at the same time feel bad. So I kind of try to get out of the box, but sometimes it's hard because the situation is not changing. But I know I'm in a box and I want to get out because I feel bad. I see my kids, they're 4 and 5. What would they know about debts and the bank and the job and all that? So it's like a struggle inside because I know I'm there because I am there, but I want to get out because they feel bad. I didn't understand what's going on. So it gets kind of frustrating as well.
Yeah, no, I love that comment. I appreciate it so much. And if you guys remember, those of you that are new, when we talked about getting out, and how do we get out of the box? Well, first we have to be aware that we're there. That's why we're sharing with you these self-awareness tools to help heighten our awareness to when we're in the box, when we're getting triggered or eruption for us, to know that we're in a box. It's something about us, rather than go to the place we'd normally go to, which is why are they doing this to us? We can actually start to call our own lives into question. And then what's missing when we're in the box, we don't see. We don't see their objectives, challenges, and needs. We're blind to it. We're only seeing them in a self-fulfilling way. So getting out starts with self-awareness, and then once we know we're in the box, we got to get curious about what we don't see, about their challenges, their needs, their concerns, and that chases away our box and replaces it with care and compassion. What we talked about earlier was truth and about other people, and care and compassion are one thing. If I feel anything but care and compassion towards someone, pretty good chance where am I? And if I feel anything but care and compassion towards someone, pretty good chance I don't know who they really are. Just my self-fulfilling distorted view that I have of them when I'm in the box, right? They're either reinforcing my image, or they're a threat to it, or they don't matter to it. And it. Now, the couple questions I added up here, which are kind of interesting for us to ponder, especially thinking about our work. The question up there, can an organization or a team actually pick up an inward style? What do you guys think about that? What do you guys think about that? I know at Anasazi, for example, in the 90s, we actually saw ourselves as better than anyone else in our field. Okay, we saw ourselves as, we adopted that inward style. We were better than, we were the best one out there. We were better than, and certainly we did good things, but to have this image of better than, how do you think that impacted our organization? What did we do and what did we stop doing when we saw ourselves as better than, do you think?
Probably stop focusing on getting to be better. Like just thinking that you're already better, that makes you stop trying to be better.
Yes, very good point. Yeah, good insight. And we stopped learning. We stopped growing. We stopped trying to be better. I love that your language. We just stopped trying to be better because we're already better. We're already better. And we stopped growing. We really, there was a period of time where we stopped growing, right? What about that I deserve? Like a team that feels deserving or entitled. What's it like to work with them? Or worse than, I've raised money in a worse than place before for Anasazi, been in that worse than place. What's that like? And a need to be seen as a team or organization that needs to be seen as something is seldom transparent, always portraying things they're not, fudging the numbers, putting things right. They're not transparent because they need to be seen as this. And so whatever that might be. And so that impacts us as well. So does that make sense? Now, those are the collective mindsets of the people on that team or in that organization. But I think it's something to be sensitive to, especially as we think about our competitors in this space and market space. We can't stop learning. We can't stop growing. The moment we do, we lose sight of the needs of the customer. We lose sight of their challenges, and because we already feel like we know what it is and we can solve it and answer the questions for us. No, we got to keep learning. We got to keep growing. That's how we stay out in blue ocean, out in front of the competition. And so, all right. Any other insights? Any other questions, you guys? Is this helpful? Talking about inward styles today, boxes we carry around with us.
I actually have a question.
Yes.
About the I deserve box. So if you're growing as a team and you get into, or sorry, not I deserve, better than, if you're growing as a team to better them because you're striving to be the best in that field, would it be likely that the outcome of that would be growing as a team, you already hit better and best, like you know you're the greatest, so then that need to be better than those around you because you're already the best as a team, so now you need to become the best of those in your team, so you become disconnected from those in your team? Is that likely?
That's very likely, and then you become at war with the success of those around you because you have to see yourself as better than everyone. That's great insight. And so no, it's not, look, we want to be the best in our market space. We want to be the best that's out there, but let's be the best towards our customers, right? Let's do our best. We don't have to see everyone else as less than to do that. We just want to serve our customers in an outstanding way. That's how we'll stay out front. That's how we'll stay in that space. But to see ourselves as above others, right? It doesn't mean there aren't people who are more talented. Or organizations that are better at this or that. That's not what we're saying. It's saying that when we're outward, people count like we count. They matter like we matter. They have a job to do of their own. They have ideas and things they want to accomplish, things they want to achieve. They have challenges and headaches of their own. And so, and I'm alive to that. And I do my work that takes that into account, right? That's what it means to be outward. But to be inward means I'm above or beneath. I'm not, they don't count like I count. I am above or beneath. They're less than, right? Or they're more than, and I can never get there. And so great point. Great point. Any other questions? I'll end with one little story here. And I hope I haven't shared this story already, but if not, I'm going to share this story with all of you. If so, you'll hear it again. But I had a good friend who attended a workshop that we did that talked when we were talking about these inward styles boxes we carry with us. And he calls me up like 3 months later. He says, Mike, I have to tell you the story. And I said, what's that? Well, he had four kids. And he had three boys first. And these boys behaved really well at church. These kids were just super. I mean, they sat there quietly. And people would come up to him after church. And how do you do that? How do you get those kids to sit there so quietly, right? Without any crayons, without any Cheerios. I mean, how do you keep them so quiet? You're amazing. And he said, I would usually kind of pass it off on their mom and say they got a great mom. And he says, but over time, I must have begun to uptake that, because he says, then we had Kelly, and Kelly was a girl, but she was a volume above all three boys put together. She was a disaster. She was just loud. She was loud. And we'd go to church and we find ourselves out in the hallway with her. We find ourselves, I mean, she was just a mess. And we find ourselves bringing crayons and Cheerios and all the other things we didn't bring with the boys, just to keep her busy. And he says, as she got older, I get her to sit on the couch. And I get her to sit there and I would say, Kelly, if you can sit there for 15 minutes quietly with the other boys, we'll do banana splits, we'll do root beer floats. And she'd do great at home. But then they go to church and she'd be staying on the pew talking to somebody 4 rows back, right? And so in the middle of the sermon, she was a disaster. So he goes through this training, same training that you just went through here today. And he calls me a couple months later and he says, Mike, I'll tell you what happened on Sunday. I said, what's that? And he says, Kelly was a disaster. And so he says, in the middle of the sermon, I grabbed her by the wrist and I pulled her out of the row. And I started walking her down the aisle out of the chapel. And she starts waving at people. Bye, bye. And he says, that just incensed me. And so he says, I pulled her out into the foyer. And just as those chapel doors closed, I stuck my finger in her face. And I let her know exactly what I thought about her behavior. And he says, I don't know if it was a tear in her eyes or the fear in her face, but I suddenly had a horrible realization of what you were teaching me. He says, I realized I had turned the whole congregation into my audience. And I was the sort of dad who was better than all the other parents. I was the sort of dad who had perfect children. And Kelly made me look bad. And so I treated her differently. Does that make sense? And so when we have an image about ourselves, there's eruptions, we get triggered. And rather than go to the place we would normally go to, which is, why are you doing this to me? Let's start to ask the question, what image about me might now be being shattered or threatened? All right, you guys? So now we've given you 4 self-awareness tools, 2 mindset change tools. And so I really appreciate the opportunity to be with all of you this year. And I look forward to the new year, and I wish all of you the very best during this holiday season with you and your families. And that it's a wonderful, memorable time. I know it's been a rough year for many. You guys have been amazing, and you've been a bright spot in my year this year to have the opportunity to jump on this call every once with all of you. So thank you.